Good afternoon and welcome to today's Ask the Expert. My name's Anita and today our topic for discussion will be healing through connection. This would be finding strength and hope in support groups. Thank you so much for being here, and we hope that this is going to be an amazing session that's going to interest so many of you. We are joined today by two of our wonderful support group leaders. We have the lovely Chantal Machoya and we have Tris. Um, Tris is, sorry, something went wrong there. Oh, and Tris Albai. So, welcome to you guys today, and thank you so much for joining us for Ask the Expert today, Tris and Chantal. Okay. So I'm just going to give you a quick bio on Chantal, and then we go to Tris. So Chantal is a dedicated mental health practitioner, a former SADAG counselor, and the founder of Garden of Healing Counseling Services. She mentors psychology graduates. She leads a support group for migrant women and individuals facing suicidal thoughts. She raises mental health awareness through TV, radio, and community outreach programs. As the founder of Young African and Proud, YAP, and a content producer for Eunice's Radio Unfiltered Minds, she amplifies powerful stories and creates conversations that inspire change. Wow, that's a great bio from Chantal. And then Tris Albers. Tris is an applied social science graduate with an honors in psychology and specializing in counseling. Chris is currently working towards his master's degree in clinical psychology. This is driven by a passion for exploring how creativity and compassionate care can support healing. Chris also facilitates the SADAG Queer Mental Health Support Group. He also works as a program assistant and scheduling coordinator and a client support at a private dependency and psychiatric facility. So, wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much for joining us, Tris and Chantal. So, today talking about healing through connection, it's such a strong topic to talk about. So maybe I can start with you, Chantal. Maybe you can tell us about your journey and what got you first, or what first led you to support groups.
Thank you for having us, Anita, and good afternoon to everyone that has joined us today. So, what led me to support groups was my first encounter with SADC. And up to now, I always remember how that encounter was for me because it lit a fire within me and a fire that's still burning up to now. So it all started when I came across the SADC's website. It was in 2020, and I was blown away by the amazing initiatives that SADC has been involved in, and that led me to reaching out to Cassie. And I sent an email. I told her everything about about everything that I've been doing, mental health related. And at the time, I remember I was a radio producer and presenter for a show titled Your Mental Health Matters. I told her about that as well. And when she responded, oh my goodness, she was so kind. She was so sweet. And, she cheered me on and told me about all the initiatives that SADC were involved in. She sent me links to volunteer and what I can do. She provided me with information. And from there, I joined SADC, and here we are.
Wow. What a wonderful story, Chantal. That's amazing. And it just shows your reach out and the correspondence that you got and how everything just fitted into place. That's really wonderful to hear. And Tris, what made you start at SADC as a support group leader?
Thank you so much, Anita. Hi, Chantal. Hi, everyone, as well. So I started a support group because it's out of personal experience. When I was kind of growing up and kind of going through stages when my mental health started becoming a real challenge for me, especially coming out as gay to my family who were quite religious. And like I'm just finding so many stumble blocks and challenges along the way. I kind of came to this realization that a support group is something that I kind of wish I had at that time, because I found myself in a place where I was talking to people or trying to explain to people like what it was like, or like what I was dealing with, or where I was coming from. And I felt like no one quite understood. It felt like, there weren't many people in my life at that time who understood what I was going through, or what I needed. And I think that's kind of what led me to start my own support group, because I wanted to kind of create a space like that for others, where there's a space where you can kind of come connect and share your experiences with people who might have different experiences, but also will kind of understand where you're coming from. I think because there's so many different support groups for different topics and different things. So you'll find a support group with something that is very close to what you're dealing with, and you'll find other people who might understand a little bit better than others in your life who don't quite understand. And that's what ultimately led me to starting my support group, or wanting to start a support group. And I've just kind of grown a huge love for support groups ever since. The SADAG training is amazing. And the more I work with SADAG, the more I wish I could do this all day, every day. So, yeah.
Tris, thank you for that. And I hear you when you say that, even like you have family or you have people around you and they don't really understand. And like you said, you wish you had this at that time. And it's amazing what you actually find through creating that space for like-minded people to be there and to talk and to be there for each other. So that's really, really amazing. And Chantal, just going back to what Chris was talking about, can you tell me a little bit about your journey and how that has influenced your support group?
So my journey since becoming a support group leader, correct?
Yes, your journey and in your group. What's actually inspired your group?
So my group was inspired by women, right? Especially African women. So I realized that, African women find themselves migrating for a lot of different reasons all over Africa and all over the world. But once they've migrated, they don't usually have access to resources, when they have migrated to those new to those new countries. So the aim was for the group was just to bring those women together, for them to share experiences, to take care of their mental health as well, because relocating doesn't take a financial and physical toll on a person only, it also takes an emotional toll on them. So the group was provide a platform for them to interact with one another, to share resources, and just be there for each other. However, we received a lot of young women, wanting in the group, a lot of requests. So now we had to divide the group into two. So we've got a migrant women group and just international women, which is women from all over the world, not necessarily a migrant, but who just needed a space to share their experiences and get support.
Wow. Thank you for that, Chantal. And yes, it's amazing being in that role. Like for many of you out there, our support groups are run. We've got many of them in South Africa, and then we also have the international groups, which is where Chantal's coming in. She is the support group leader for an international group. So there is help for people even outside of South Africa to get help from our support group leaders. Yes, Chantal. So thank you for that. Andres, maybe coming back to you, what's or how has your lived experience maybe shaped the way that you show up for others and even for others in within your support group?
Thank you so much for the question, Anita.
Mm.
I think it would be really difficult to pinpoint exactly like how, because like when I ask like to like how like really explain it, I think it's quite hard. But I think it has shaped a lot of how I interact, not just like how I show up in my support group or in counseling or like with for others, but I think just in general, it's changed how I interact with people, anyone, like a stranger I might meet on the street. And that I think I try and kind of come to this approach where I know what it's like to be in a really dark place, and I know what it's like to have like silent wars in your mind, like fighting the silent war that no one else knows about. And I think that's so I try and kind of keep that in mind when because I get frustrated too with people. I get really annoyed sometimes. I also kind of, I'm very busy and I kind of will be very dismissive at times. And I try and kind of like when I notice that, I kind of try and step back and, remind myself if if it were me, right? If I were in like the darkest place I was in, how did I feel when those people were saying or reacting a certain way or talking to me or kind of dismissing me? So I try and keep that in mind as far as I possibly can. And I think that's kind of like, but I think it's kind of become a way where I've reshaped how I socialize and interact with people entirely. So when I come to my group, I always try and come in there, especially a new person joining the group. I know how it feels to like be nervous and anxious and you don't really know what to say, or maybe you don't want to say something the first time, or like, you don't know what people are going to say or what can expect. I know what that's like. Or when someone joins and they leave, or they say they're going to join, they don't join for like a few groups, and they join like maybe like 3 weeks after they've inquired with you. I know that kind of what that feels like, that anxiety that you feel, that uncertainty you feel, and that. So I kind of try and make space for that. When people are sharing things from a certain point in their lives, and maybe in the group setting, it might kind of come off in a certain way. I think it's important to remember, I know what it's like to be in that position and sharing for the first time, or kind of this being the only place where people will listen to you. So maybe they're not talking too much or taking up all the space. Maybe no one else is listening, and this is the only place where they get to talk, as an example. So I think that's kind of how I try and bring my lived experience into it, but also then still manage it, of course, within boundaries and things like that. But yeah, I think that's, but it's difficult to explain, really, actually.
It is a difficult, like you say, it's difficult to explain. And it's also just holding that space for someone in that support group, Tris. So maybe I can just ask you, do you find there's a lot of emotional trauma that comes with this within the support group?
There is, I think, are you asking if like people bring emotional trauma
Yes,
to the group? Yes,
yes.
yes, that happens all the time. I think, especially I think my support group is like a queer support group, right? So like queer people will have their own different stories. And if you talk to a queer person and they start sharing their story with you, they're always going to start like with, oh, my coming out story, or how people reacted, or how difficult it was. Like that's like it's very rare that that won't be the first thing that kind of comes to mind when you ask. Like if you ask me, like, it comes to my mind immediately. And that can be very emotionally heavy. It can be a lot. It can sometimes even be triggering. So you have to manage that. But I think also like if you've been suicidal before, which like I myself have been, and many members in my support group have also been, you kind of come into that, like when you think about that, when you kind of first tell someone about that experience, you yourself are like, I get emotional to this day. If I start telling people about that time of my life, I get emotional. Like I can't speak about it without crying. So when the members kind of come and share things like that, that's also like it's very emotionally heavy. It's very taxing. So but it's also freeing, I think, as well. Like I think it's very cathartic to be able to share that in a space where people, and I'm like kind of have people understand, have people actually just listen to you. I think that's quite cathartic and quite freeing as well. Just knowing that, you know, I'm not alone in this experience, and there are people willing to help. There are people willing to support. There are people willing to listen. And this is a safe space where I can do that and can explore that within boundaries, because it's also really important that people are aware that you can't come here without having primary mental health care as well. Unfortunately, like a support group is a secondary means of support. So there are boundaries with it. You also have to manage quite carefully. But then that's when you refer someone to that primary source, and then later they can come back to the group. So yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much, Tris. And it just brings me to an important point as well, where people looking, or even the audience watching this show, this session right now, it's so important to know that the support group is not your first place for therapy. It's not your first place for looking at actually like your mental health functionality that you need. It's a secondary place, and it's a support group for you to come there. We are not all professionals in that space, so it's more like, a support group is for lived experiences. So it's led by people with lived experience. And just talking to both you and Chantal, it's just showing the experience that you have to in order to help other people that are going to be joining groups, like many of our other support group leaders as well. So thank you so much for that, Tris. And Chantal, maybe you can come in and share a moment from your group that actually reminded you why this work is so important to you.
Um, it was quite powerful. It was a moment that I think is not usually spoken about or shed light about. So there was a young lady in the group that had been molested by a loved one, by an uncle, and she shared her experiences with us, and eventually, also whilst getting emotional support, she decided to bring it up with the uncle, and as in talk about I remember this happening when I was younger. Did it happen really? And so on. I confront the uncle now. And she didn't tell anyone before confronting the uncle besides us members of the group, and the therapist she was seeing. And, she shares with us back after this has happened that the uncle was actually very understanding, and he acknowledged what happened. He acknowledged that yes, it did happen the way she's, thinking that it did happen, and he apologized for what had happened. He shared his side of the story as to why he acted in that manner. It turned out, that he himself had been a victim of a sexual violence, and he never acknowledged it. So because he never acknowledged it, he never saw it as what it was truly. He never saw that it was wrong. It should have never happened to him. He never came to terms with the pain and the shame that came with that. So he went on and he bled on someone else and continued doing the exact same thing because he never acknowledged it was wrong. And they had their chat and so on and so on. And when she came back and she spoke to us, she said, that was all the justice that I needed. For him to actually own up to what happened and him sharing his story. And through this, he's also getting healing, and he's also receiving counseling. So, being exposed to that environment where you can see that perpetrators many times are also victims. And they're always going to be perpetrators when they get, the support, if they get to be heard and get to share their side of the story, they can also get healing. And because they healed or they're working on themselves, the chances of them repeating the same incident is going to be less. It's going to be 0 to none because now they know better. So that was really powerful for me, and it of what we do.
What you do. Chantal, thank you. And just listening to that story, it just makes me realize, having that space within the support groups that people are so free to share. I mean, for someone to come and tell you as her support group leader what she's done and how she's approached the situation, um, how does that make you feel as a support group leader?
Very happy and very proud, to be honest. Because it goes to show that the support group is working, because the aim of the support group, I think, is also to build emotional maturity. So when people are able to handle such situations and also realize that, they're choosing to let go, they're choosing to approach the situation, whilst they are emotionally matured, it just gives me the purpose to keep on going.
Thank you so much, Chantal. Tris, just a question to you. In your experience, what changes when someone realizes that they're not alone in the way that they're feeling? What are some of the comments you can make in that from your experience?
From my experience, what I think I found is like what changes is like you start developing hope, right? Like I think because I think when you are going through a dark place, you become hopeless. I mean, even when you talk about like suicide, depression, and like you get a sense of hopelessness, right? Like when someone reaches that point in their lives, like it's because they think that there's nowhere else to go and they lose all hope. They think there's nowhere else to turn, there's no other option, there's no other solution. They've lost all hope. That's kind of what gets people to that point. So I think when you join the support group space or you kind of talk to a counselor, you reach out and you start finding that there are people that are willing to listen, that people will kind of, support you, and that gives you hope. And I think that hope is the most powerful thing when you're kind of going through that rough time, is that I think any of us can attest to, like, hope can make a monumental difference in your life. So I think that would be what I've heard them, because like my group members have told me this as well, right? Like they felt like that they feel more hopeful, they feel more excited, they find there are other options for them. Like I've had so many people tell me like they've now, after joining the support group, they've now gone out and made these new friends, or like, I'm going out more, I found this friend, or I've like, and that makes me happy. Or people in the group building friendships and they start going out again, and like they have this very beautiful friendship and they met each other in the support group space. And I think yeah, that's what I would share from my experience. I think that makes me really happy and makes me quite emotional and overwhelmed with like awe when I think about how powerful that connection is.
It just shows you the connection that actually forms within support groups. And coming back to that, where we talk about healing through connection being our theme. And from what I've been hearing from you as well as from Chantal, it's that connection that you actually feel, and knowing that you're not going to be judged, knowing that, you know what, it's a safe space. And this is all that I'm getting from this conversation that we having, is that the safety that you have, the environment that you have in which you can share and talk about, and knowing that, you know what, you're not judged. It's just a comfortable, safe space. And thank you so much for sharing that. And Chantal, maybe I can ask you this question. As a support group leader, how do you support others after looking at your own emotional well-being? Do you maybe feel drained, or how do you fill your cup?
I think it's something similar to what Tristan said earlier. And for me, it's setting boundaries. And when you're setting boundaries, not in a mean way, but so that I can also, recharge and fill up my cup, because I'm also human, as you said. I'm also a human being, and I need to take care of my own mental well-being. Because if I don't take care of my mental well-being, I'll end up bleeding on you. And bleeding on you, I mean, maybe sometimes I'm not patient, or not as supportive, because I am also empty. So I ensure that I provide my support group members with resources. So in cases where I am not available and I'm recharging, they do have access to other organizations that they can reach out to in cases of emergency. I encourage them to build a community, a friendship amongst themselves, like they just said with us just now, so that they can speak to each other and reach out, to each other. Ensure that they're also emotionally matured to be able to process their emotions, that they have the coping mechanisms to process any difficult emotions that they might find themselves dealing with, and they can't get hold of me, or, for example, some of the support group members, or even organizations that we would have shared with them.
Okay. Thank you, Chantal. And it just shows me like that within the support groups, you also try empowering the people that are in there. And also by doing that, and it's like you don't create that codependency, like, I have to be there and I'm the only one that's going to help you. I'm your support group leader. You can't reach out to anyone. So I see that whole empowerment thing happening within the groups. And that's amazing, because also, like many of our support groups, we do have I won't say duplication, but we have quite a few groups doing the same thing. And if you're not available for any whatever reason, there's always the help of another support group. There's always reaching out to your support group coordinator and finding ways and means to help the person, and knowing that, you know what, if I don't know what to do, it's okay. There is someone else that's going to be there to help. So no one's left in a lurch, not knowing what to do. And yeah, thank you for sharing that. Okay, Trace, I'm just thinking of more questions that I can ask you, because this has just been so amazing. Is there anything you want to add, Trace, from your side? Maybe for someone who feels for someone that's in the situation, like we spoke about your group being a queer support group, what message would you share with someone that's maybe watching right now, someone that might be struggling or feel unsure about reaching out? What would you tell someone?
I think I would tell someone that I think when you're in that place, you're feeling hopeless, you're feeling unsafe, you're feeling unsure, you're feeling scared maybe. You're feeling like an anxious. And I think I want to first say that my support group and many other support groups are anonymous, so no one's like it's a safe space, and that you would be surprised by the connection you can build in and the safety you can find with a group of people that understand, that are empathetic, and that can support you. And within an organization that's got so many other resources for you as well, should there be anything else that you might need to be referred to or go to. So I think I would say that, you can always reach out, and that it might be scary to reach out, but I think focus on the hope and the safety that you'll find after reaching out once you are in the group, or once you have found that one person to talk to, because it really just takes one person. Like it just takes one person to talk to, and you don't have to rush into anything. You can go slow. like talk to this person, then maybe join a group 3 weeks down the line, or maybe you want to first just find out or ask a few questions about the support group. Maybe you don't want to join yet. Maybe you just want to ask a few questions. Just always welcome to reach out. And again, it's anonymous, so no one's going to know you. But I think with my support group, I think anonymity is quite important, especially if you think about coming out and a lot of the stereotypes and persecution and tolerance levels within certain communities. A lot of people are sometimes that anxiousness is exacerbated by the fear of what if someone knows or what if someone finds out and then I'm in a tricky situation. My SADAG support group is an anonymous group, so it's completely safe. It's you don't have there's no pressure, there's no expectation at all. So yeah, that's what I would like to share.
Thank you for sharing that. And it just helps because people are afraid, people are scared. Like you say, you have all the societal norms as to, like, what if, or what if my friends know, my parents know, or family. It's those trust issues, etc., of coming out, like you say, and how you're going to be judged, how you're going to be looked at, and having a support structure where, it's okay, we can get through this, and you're showing people what you've gone through from a lived experience perspective, and you have all these like-minded people to talk about things. It actually makes it a little bit easier for someone that's coming out or someone that's looking for help in finding a place where they can feel supported, where they can feel heard. So thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you, Tris. And maybe Chantal, from your support group side, how do you think they truly feel when they are heard and seen? And I know we used the example where the lady actually went to her uncle and spoke to him and approached the situation, but how would they truly feel when they seen and heard?
Um, I think when they're sin in head, they are willing to forgive, right? And with forgiving, I think many times we think we should forgive because it's a moral thing to do, because we're expected to forgive. But seeing them choosing to forgive for the sake of their well-being, choosing to forgive because they are tired of carrying the weight, the pain, the frustration, the trauma, the emotions and the thoughts that comes with, holding on to that pain or that incident. So seeing them saying, look, I'm choosing to forgive, not forgetting. I acknowledge that it happened, but I am choosing not to live in that state of pain or go through that grief over and over again. I'm choosing to break free from that cycle, and I'm choosing to take care of myself and let go and take off my mental health and not let what happened define me.
Wow. Thank you so much for that, Chantal. And I'm looking at our time, and we're almost there. It's just amazing how fast the time go. Hey, it's like when you can have so much of information that we got to give people out there, and all of those of you that are listening. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to pop it in the chat box, and we will get back to you with regards to any questions that you may have. And for those of you who are looking for Tris or Chantal's information, you're more than welcome to find it on our website, which is www.sadag.org. And for any other support groups that you might be interested in, will also be listed under the support group leader tab, and you'll be able to find all the information that you're looking for there. So before we do leave, Tris, what is there any message that you would like to give just to everybody out there?
Of course, it's going to sound really cheesy though, so forgive me for that, but it's going to be you are not alone. I think, and I know that's super cheesy. I know you've heard that so many times, but it is true. It's simple, it's basic, and it is true. You're not alone.
Thank you, Tris. And like you say, it might sound cheesy. It's not cheesy. When you reflect on that, it's so important, that reflection as well. You're not alone. Chantel, let's hear from you.
For me, I think it'll be that, I know the world is a terrible place. I know there's so many bad things that are happening out there, but I'm asking you to please have hope and believe that things are not as bad. There are people that are providing support, and also invite people to try and find ways to make the world a better place. Being kinder to someone, in the workplace, at home, in our own families, and our friends. Let's choose to treat each other with kindness. Let's act in ways that would make the world a better place, not only for ourselves, but also for our children, because they're the future. And if we keep on making it bad, they have to live in that environment.
Oh, thank you so much for the wonderful message, Chantal. And yes, so we've come to the end. And from my side, I just want to say thank you to Tris and Chantal for joining us today on Ask the Expert. We really appreciate your time and we value everything that you do for support groups. And for me, I just want to say that you can heal through connection and just reflect on those words. It's so important. So thank you and goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.